Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
My prior experience with in the 92 U.S. Senior Open, we had problems with the TV people. When they got up and left, they didn't care what they did. They rode their carts everywhere and anywhere to pick up their wires. So I told in 2000, I got wise and I told Neil at the end of the event, they're going to be coming out as soon as they can to start picking up their wire and winding it up. I says, you stay on them. He says, I'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about it. Now, he didn't do anything with this, but he pulled a big axe out and he had an axe in the back of his cart. And I don't know, he had to be 6'5", 280. He looked like a monster. He sort of put it up in the air and he goes, I'll take care of him with this. And so, but I never had a problem that year. They did everything I asked them to do.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Turf Today, presented by Toro. Count on it. And we have recorded this episode on the Superintendent Network. We are constantly trying to make things easier and better for you. My name is Adam Kershane, and I'm joined by my co-host, Brian Laurent. And today we bring you another tremendous episode, and this one is a special one. It's a family episode, and right around Canadian Thanksgiving, which is a lot of fun, right? We have some Canadian listeners, and we always got to make sure we give them a little love, too. So I got to play you guys a little something. This is from Chris Biggs. He is a radio host, podcast host from right here in Ottawa, Shea 106. And this is just a little minute clip from him.
It's the Canadian Thanksgiving this weekend, so happy Thanksgiving to all my Canadian friends, to my American friends. There are a few differences from ours to your Thanksgiving that you might not be aware of. First of all, the head of each family gets to wear the ceremonial beaver pelt hat. And before we sit down to eat our traditional meal of moose meat and ketchup chips, we give thanks exclusively to Ryan Reynolds, Wayne Gretzky, Keanu Reeves, and Celine Dion. Then after dinner's done, we play a quick pickup game of hockey right on the dining room table. The loser has to apologize for 2 hours straight. Once the apology is accepted, they then have to down a Tim Hortons glass of maple syrup. When that's finished, we all gather around in the family room and the children perform their favorite episode of Letterkenny. And then we end the evening by exchanging Canadian Tire gift cards. So, happy Thanksgiving.
So hopefully all of you Canadians love that, and everybody in the States and all over the world who loves to chirp us Canadians. There it is. No, that's not how we do it, although that was pretty funny. We had a lot of great stuff this weekend, a lot of great food, turkey, ham, pecan pie, and a bunch of pumpkin pie with whipped cream, right? Because that's how you got to do it. So happy Thanksgiving to all those Canadians. And I got to say, for somebody who lived in the States for a long time, I think the Americans still do it better. I mean, it is a little different, but I think they do it better. It's a bit more of a holiday, and I think it's at a better time of the year too. But that's just me. Don't come at me about it. That's just where I'm at. I used to try and plan it properly so that I could be here for the Canadian one and then be in the States for the American one. It rarely worked out, but I think there was one year where it actually happened. That was kind of special. So we mentioned earlier that this is going to be a family podcast. And if you saw the title or you saw our Instagram post before you came here, you know that our guest today is Terry Laurent. And yes, that's Brian's dad. Longtime superintendent. He was in the turf business for over, I believe he said 47 years. And we are absolutely honored to have him on. He's a great guest. He was a little hesitant to come on, but I'm happy that he did. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I'm going to fire things down to Brian right now.
Let's see what kind of technical difficulties he's having. It's going to be something.
Yeah.
What do I do?
I don't know what to do with my hands.
It's not working. Let's take bets on if he's wearing Penn State gear.
That's what you think?
I'm thinking he might. He might. He shouldn't, the way they're playing right now. But actually, no, I take that back. Penn State's playing good. Michigan's not doing well.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I think
I
Penn
can't
State's
say I don't
fourth.
follow it up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, some guys, like some Canadians love their college football and college sports, and other, like some of us are just like, it's just another thing to try and remember and follow.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's like I understand the culture of it. Like when I lived in the States and like I lived right by Ole Miss or you live by LSU and it's a heartbeat. Like crazy. Turf Today is proudly sponsored by Toro. And do you want to know something else that's sponsored by Toro? That is the GCSAA Golf Championships that are going on early 2025. And it's happening at Torrey Pines right before the American Show. Definitely sign up for one of the events or all of the events. This is one of the most world-class things I have ever been a part of. One of the most beautiful golf courses in the world. So why not? It's going to be a spectacular week. Everybody you know in the industry is going to be there. And who knows? Maybe you'll get to see us too.
Oh, there we go. Here it comes.
There, I got you.
Perfect.
Terry, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Adam?
Not too bad. It's really, really nice to meet you.
I've heard a lot about you, Adam.
Yeah, you too. This is so great. We're really fortunate to have you on here today.
Well, I'm happy to be able to oblige. I'm going to bore you to death, though, Adam.
No, I don't think so. We've had some great guests on here, and I think you're going to be just right there with them.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of your podcasts. So, matter of fact, that was an interesting one. That history that he has with the hickory sticks and that was pretty cool. I really liked that. So, I think
That was a good one.
Andy was good. I liked
Andy,
it.
Yeah, that was an interesting. That was an educational episode for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, it was. Well, for me too. It was sort of fun.
I went back and fact checked him on like the whole top dressing thing, and sure enough, there was the story. It was
No
great.
way. Oh, good.
Yeah. So we had a bet. I said I wouldn't be surprised if you were wearing some kind of Penn State gear, but that's a little too royal blue for Penn State.
Yeah, but you see that, right?
Oh,
there we
nice. Look at
go.
that.
Yeah.
Hey, how do you like my
Very nice.
background, Brian?
I love it. It's one of my favorites.
I'm looking at all your podcasts. Everybody's got all their memorabilia sitting behind them, and I'm going, I don't have that opportunity anymore. I'm going to have to do something. So,
Well, you've got plenty of memorabilia hanging around for sure.
well, I stuck some of it behind me. So,
Yeah, a
so
lot
it
of it's
wouldn't be.
probably in the garage, or is it all, or otherwise you'd be doing the podcast in the hallway there at the lake house.
Well,
That's where
that's
you
what
got most of
I
it
thought.
hung.
Thought I'd better bring some stuff out. So I had Mom take the stuff off the top of the bench here, and we filled it in with some stuff with the picture. And I got a couple more back there. I don't know if you guys, I don't know how much it opens up on you guys, but
Well, tell
you
us
can
about
all
it.
see.
What's in the picture behind you?
That's the 2000 U.S. Senior Open, and that's all the big guys: Watson, Kite, Irwin, Palmer, and Nicholas on there. And they're all signed.
Wow.
That was a limited edition that the club did, and I can't remember what number this one is. This one's 33 out of 500. So there's not a lot of them out
You
there.
had 32 people ahead of you that got that thing. You should be number one.
Well, that you can blame your mom for that because she bought
Oh.
that for me for Christmas. So
Oh,
that
nice.
was Christmas prior to the event, and then we had. I don't know if you remember, we had one of the. I trying to remember one of the locker room attendants had him sign it for me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I remember that was a big issue. So
We'll jump ahead. We'll get the backstory here soon, but you've obviously, I mean, you've been around this industry for a long time. You've been to some great events and all that. What is your favorite piece of memorabilia?
gee, I was trying to think of some things you'd asked me. That wasn't one that I thought of.
I'm going to throw
Um,
all sorts of stuff your way today too. Just get ready.
my favorite piece of memorabilia, probably the picture I had with Palmer. Since I met him several times, and then he signed it for me right in front of me. So that was pretty cool. That was probably the nicest one. And of course, the one behind me is not bad either. I mean, I have a few things that I like. To pick
They're
one.
both they're both wrong answers, Dad. I'm going to tell you what your favorite piece of memorabilia should be.
It should be you.
No, well, I'm in it, but it should be the family picture when you actually got to play in the Senior Open.
Well, see, I
Right.
told you there are quite a few. Yes, yeah, that picture with us, and that was nice. I think Chi was in that picture, wasn't he? In that
No,
walk.
it was just the four of us when you finished up on
That was
18.
afterwards. I think I
Yeah,
have a picture
yeah,
with Mom and I and Chi, I think too. For some reason,
yeah.
that's sticking in my head. But
Brian told that story on the podcast quickly. I'd love for you to kind of tell the listeners about how that kind of all went down.
With the playing,
Yeah.
I heard Brian tell that story, and he
He's going to
had it
take this
almost.
whole hour and he's going to correct every single story I've ever told.
I will
100%.
I will correct a little bit. You had it pretty much everything right except for the day.
Okay. Okay.
Because I did it on a because Gene the Matari played Saturday as a marker, and then they came to me Saturday evening. The USGA did, Tim Morgan and Tom Meeks, and they asked me if I could play as a marker on Sunday. And I said, I hadn't played for like 6 weeks. And I said, I don't know. And I've never played in front of a crowd before. I said, I don't know if you want me. He said, oh, you'll do just fine. And he said, just go down and hit some balls. So this is part of the story that Brian didn't tell. But that night, Saturday night, they told me I could go down and hit balls on the practice range and get ready. So I went down and went down to the range, and lo and behold, who was hitting on the range was Tom Kite at the same time I was there. But I didn't want to bother him, so I went all the way to the other end. But so I hit balls Saturday night, woke up the next morning. Of course, we went in early, like 3:30 in the morning, and did all our projects that we had to get done prior to the event starting. Now, first tee time was 7 o'clock, if I remember right. They came to me about a quarter after 6 and said I had to be approved by the pro that I was playing with, Bill Tilley, and he was a pro from Washington State, just a club professional. And so he had to approve me playing with him. So they finally got a hold of him. He said it'd be all right. So at 6:15, they told me I was going to be teeing off at 7 o'clock.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to buzz down. I had my clubs with me in the back of my cart. So I asked them if I could warm up first, and they said, "Well, yeah, you don't have a lot of time though." So I ran down to the driving range, and of course, there's a lot of people around then. And my other son, Pat, caddied for me, so he had to get a bib and get that going. So he took my clubs down. We went down. I think I hit about 10 shots, and they said it's time to go. So I turned around, walked all the way up to the tee. And of course, Brian told that story and it was pretty cool. I was walking across well, you have to get to the practice range, you have to walk across the third fairway. As I'm walking across, all the members that were volunteers they just formed a circle around me and started walking me up to the first tee. I go, what's going on here? They go, we're gonna give you a walk up to the first tee and protect you. And of course, they had this all done ahead of time. They had some kids try to break through their circle to get my autograph. And I go, seriously? So they took me up to the first tee. I got up there, and my whole crew, or a lot of my crew, were standing there alongside the first tee and hooting and hollering. And of course, I'm nervous
Nice.
as all get out. But it was pretty cool. The only thing I kept telling myself is, do not dub it off the first tee. Don't just
Yes.
ground it. That was my biggest fear. And but I didn't, thank goodness. I hit it into the bunker, and that's where Nicholas was the day before, so I felt pretty good about it.
There you
So
go. What are the chances that's ever happened again? Like, do you think a superintendent's ever had to play as a marker or play in a day like that?
I don't think anybody's ever played like that in their own event. I don't think. I think I'm the only one that's ever done that. You know, somebody out there may reach out and say, no, that's wrong. And that's possible.
Hmm.
But I'm not aware of anybody else that has. There might have been a superintendent that's actually qualified and played in an event. Um, but I don't think anybody's ever played like that at their own event. So, yeah, I think I'm the only one that's ever done that. So
Yeah, it makes
I
makes
feel
for a
pretty
long
good about
day.
it. It was a pretty cool day, I have to admit. It was a little scary, but I didn't totally make a fool of myself, so that was good.
Yeah, you
Uh,
played well. You shot like 78 or something that day, didn't you?
well, I probably could have, but I had to pick up on, I don't know if you remember, I had to pick up on the 16th hole.
Yeah.
I hit it right into the trees, USGA official came over to me because one of the big scoreboards was in front of me. And he said, well, let's don't spend a lot of time here. He says, why don't you just pick up? And so I picked up and I just gave myself a double on that hole because I didn't know what else I could do. So I technically probably shot 81 or 80, but 78, 79 would have probably been a possibility. Yeah. But I was glad to get it over with. It was fun. It was nerve-wracking. Had some good moments there.
Yeah, absolutely. Did Pat have to carry the radio for the grounds crew too at the same time in case you had like
No, no,
callbacks or
no.
emergencies?
No, they did. We didn't have to do that.
That's good. That's good.
Everything was settled at that point. If anything was going to happen, Tim said he would take care of it. So Tim Morton. So I didn't have to worry too much about it. But that was fun. I'll have to admit it was a great experience. Something I won't ever forget. So
Right on. Well, like I said before, this is an honor to have you on here, Terry. And, Brian's told us a little bit about you throughout the episodes and things. So we'd love to just, have you go back and talk about getting into the industry and, obviously having a family and raising them on the golf course and all that fun stuff.
oh gee, where do I start? Well, I started working on the course when I was 13. There was a 9-hole public course just about a half a block away from my house where I grew up. I worked there till I was 24, and did actually at one point in time in there I was a assistant golf pro and an assistant superintendent of that 9-hole course. Um,
Double dipping.
yeah, long story short, there the guy that I worked for, Luke Bajorki, he basically brought that golf course up on his own. It was a nothing little 9-hole course there in Decatur. And he was actually a baseball player. He started off being a baseball player. I think he was AAA, and he was in the Baltimore Orioles organization. And I believe the story goes, I believe he hurt his collarbone a couple times. And so he decided to get out of baseball, and he wanted to play some sort of sport. So his wife bought him a set of golf clubs, and he became a really good player. And he taught me how to play. And then after he sold the course, which was sort of the story here, but I was supposed to buy the course for him on contract. When I was 24, he came and told me he was ready to get out. Of course, I thought, well, there's no way at 24 I'm going to be able to afford to buy this thing, even on contract, because I've been working for him. He wasn't paying me very much back then. He went on to be the head superintendent at PGA National with no college background. He had no college in him whatsoever, no book work. He just was somebody that grew up in it, or he didn't really grow up in it. He just picked it up really quick and learned a lot. And he went down to retire down in PGA National. He was going to work there just a little bit, but then I think it's Bob Ecclestone that was putting that whole thing together at the time, the owner. And he saw what Luke was doing and how he was doing it, and he really liked it. And I think he got rid of the superintendent that was there and hired Luke instead. So Luke actually grew in, I think, or at least quite a few. I think there was 5 courses there. I think he grew in almost at least 3 of them. He may not have grown in the first 2, but he was there for him. But so I at 24, I decided after he basically sold the course, and I went a different direction. I started drywall and painting. I had my own business for 6 years, and I told myself there was no way I was going to be sanding drywall all my life. So I got out. I decided I was actually in 83. This was in 83. I went to Muirfield to watch Jack's tournament. I just fell in love with the way the course looked and everything. Just could not believe the conditions of it. And that got me motivated to get back in the business. So at 30, I went back to school. Of course, I had Brian and his brother, Pat, and of course, my wife. I left Decatur and went out to Penn State and spent 2 years out there going to school. And of course, I was back and forth a lot, but went to the certificate program there at Penn State, and then graduated, went to Wilmington Country Club for 2 summers, left Wilmington Country Club and went to Harbortown Resort and Country Club, which was a 18-hole facility in St. Michael's, Maryland. And then from there, I spent 1 year there and then went up to Saucon Valley Country Club for 17, almost 18 years there. Then we decided to buy Decatur Golf Course, which was where I grew up at. That was a course I started at. So we bought it. And then Brian actually worked for me for 2 seasons. And then he decided he didn't want to work with me anymore. So he left me. So he went on, but I stayed on for 15 years there.
Gosh, was that long?
Yeah, it was 15 years.
Wow.
So we left there, and I just retired officially last year. I worked at a little course up here in Columbia City near our lake cottage for actually I worked there 9 years because I was working there at the same time I was working in Decatur too. So I was doing 2 courses. Um, and then when I got out of Decatur, I went up to Columbia City at Eagle Glen and worked there, finished out my career there as 2 years sort of semi um, hourly, I guess, an employee. Um, and and then I decided to consult with them for a year after I got out. But that's pretty much it for me. It was a great career. It was 40 some years plus officially in it. So um, it's nice being retired.
You're busier now though than you were when you were actually working. It's like pulling teeth trying to get you to come over and visit, but I get it. I get it. You're a social butterfly these days.
Well, there for a while. I mean, I didn't play golf for about 4 years because of all the
Yeah.
surgeries I had. So I just got to start to play last year again. I'm sort of liking it. I'm
Yeah.
struggling. I sure don't swing like I used to, but I'm learning how to compensate for all my surgeries. So, and as you know, I can't score very well.
Well, you probably would have beat me this weekend, that's for sure. So
I doubt that.
you made a big jump. You had a young family and decided to go back to school, and the family was essentially being raised on mom's teaching salary. I mean, what was that conversation like with mom making that decision to move to state college and go to college for 2 years?
You know your mom, she's pretty easygoing. She's laughing in the background back here. But no, we discussed it. I mean, she knew I sort of wanted to get back into it, and she was all for it. She never really gave me a hard time about it at all. I don't remember it being an issue even after I had left. I don't know. I don't know what happened when I left. Maybe she was having a good time. But
It was a party every day.
it was
I
a
remember
party.
coming home from kindergarten every day, and it was just chaos. Just chaos.
Well, I know your grandma and grandpa used to be around a lot, so I'm sure they helped a lot. And that's how we made it too, was with grandma and grandpa. They're helping us out, and they live close by, so that was good. Yeah, I don't think your mom gave us too much of a hard time. She enjoyed coming out and visiting when she did, and I enjoyed going home, so it was fun.
We alluded to it a little bit there, Terry, about Brian working with you for a couple of years, and he's certainly made a name for himself in the industry now. But with only working 2 years at a greenskeeper, did you ever think that Brian might have a future in greenskeeping or becoming a superintendent, or did you know he was going to kind of do something different?
I didn't think he'd want to be a greenskeeper, but I thought he might want to be the club professional. I mean, Brian was a good player. He worked hard at his game, and that's what it takes. And he has the personality with the people. As you know, I mean, he's got charisma. He's a smoozer.
It's all
So
a show. The lights come on, and yeah.
But I don't know where it came from, but yeah, I sort of anticipated he might want to take over. That was our intention, was for him to take over the course that we had, and I understand. I mean, we weren't making a lot of money back then. That was in the era of when things were a little tight. Golf was sort of on the downslope a little bit at that point, and 2008 was really bad, and he got out just before that because he was there. I think you were there 2005, 2006,
Yeah.
2007, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But I sort of anticipated he might want to he would like taking that over. But, things went a different direction for him. And money, I'm sure, was part of the issue because the money wasn't spectacular. Matter of fact, there for 2 years, I didn't take a salary. I was giving him my salary. So I was living off his mother. Still, I went backwards because we had to put a lot of money back into the course to make it something. And so that's what we did. We pretty much anything that we could put back in, we did. So a lot of people didn't realize that, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I really only worked for you as a kid for 2 seasons, and I think that was I always told that story of showing up 2 minutes late that day and then being threatened to be fired if it happened again. So that was my sign to go
No,
and work in the bag room. But
you needed to
uh,
be in the bag room.
yeah, 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 it
You,
was a good spot for me for sure.
yeah, you were good with the people and they liked you. So that was,
And the tips were a lot better there too.
Oh, I
yeah,
bet.
you probably made more money there, Brian.
I did, yes,
You
I
should
did.
thank me for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I was going to say I never wanted to show favoritism, so that was the reason.
Yeah, you showed some favoritism. It was just like reverse favoritism. No, it was, you sent,
Well, I
I
was
can't
I
remember
was
who it was, if it was Al or one of your assistants. They're like, dude, this is really isn't a big deal, but your dad wanted me to let you know.
well, usually it was 3 times and you were out, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's why I went with everybody. It was 3 times and you were out if you weren't there on time. Of course, nowadays, gosh, I don't think you get anybody to work for you
yeah.
unless you put up with it. But
See, my biggest bone to pick on that one was, again, I was like 2 minutes late, and I think I caught more grief for that than when Pat was in the middle of a hurricane and showed up, whatever, an hour or two late. You had no idea where he was, and he and Mark were in the
well,
middle of a hurricane driving home.
no, he caught hell for that too.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, enough of those stories. So for the people that don't know of Saucon Valley, it's, 60 holes of golf, 700 some acres. How on earth did you manage a property of that scale?
It was tough at first. I mean, thank goodness I had my predecessor was there for a little while after I took over, and Dave Miller went on to be the general manager. And of course, if I had any questions, I could always ask him. But it was like running a city. And I think Jim Roney now, who took my position after I left, he's still there. I'm sure he feels the same way. It's like it's running a city. If you don't have good people underneath you, it would be very complicated. And we had three really good. We had a lot of good staff there. I mean, I had at the time I took over, they weren't called assistants. I can't remember what Dave called them, but they were more like foremans. But I had three good foremans there that I raised to the position of assistant, and they were spectacular. They didn't have the agronomy background as far as the book knowledge, but they knew every detail of the golf course, and they were really good. And if I didn't have them, I would have been lost. But putting the people in the right positions and just seeing what they could do, and working with the different personalities. Because if you remember, we had during peak season, we'd have 90 employees there.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a few. Yeah, I remember one year I think I had to hire, well, 31 were full time. And then the rest were seasonal employees. And the one year I think I had to fill 50 positions, and I had to do, I think I had to fill that twice. So I think I did 50 hires in one year just for, well, 100. Well, actually, well, it probably wasn't 100. It was probably a good 75 hires for 50 positions. Anyway, it was, a lot of people don't like the golf course work. It can be brutal at times and hard. Of course, back then we didn't have all the nice equipment that they got now either. It was all a lot of hand work. It was tough to keep kids, especially the college kids, around very long. Eventually, I got it, but that was only one year where I really had a bad season. That was a lot of hires to keep the positions filled. I think that year was bad for everybody too, if I remember right. A lot of the courses around the area had the same issues. But yeah, it was tough, Brian. It was tough. Like I said, it was like running a city because there were so many. Actually, it's 850 acres there. And back
I was
then
only
too.
off by 150 acres, just by
Yeah,
a full golf
you weren't
course.
too far
Not too
off.
far. Yeah, yeah.
When I first took over, Saucon Valley owned, technically owned two of the golf courses. The third golf course, Wayhill course, was owned by Bethlehem Steel. And so what made it a problem was I had to do a budget for the two courses that the Saucon Valley owned, and then I had to do a budget for the Wayhill course. Um, and then I had to do a budget that was considered a shared budget, which things that we would share between all three golf courses. So I had to do three different budgets, which was really a problem. Uh, but then once,
Yikes.
I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 96 or 97 when Bethlehem Steel sort of went out of business and they sold all the golf courses. And Saucon ended up picking up that course. And of course, then it became just one budget, which was so much easier to deal with. But it was, yeah, back the early years, it was complicated. It was really complicated with all the budgets.
Well, I'd like to open it up just a little bit. 60 holes, and there's obviously a lot of planning, a lot of delegating, a lot of figuring things out. But what does a day to day look like? Are you going in and you're at all the golf courses? Or are you guys kind of localized at one shop and you're kind of moving around? Like, how did that work for you?
This is the other problems is we had two maintenance facilities and they were probably a mile and a half apart. So there was a lot of traveling between shops to organize things. Usually we sat down, had meetings with my assistants every day, or not necessarily every day, but they knew sort of the day-to-day routines that we wanted to do. And if there were special projects, we'd get together and talk about the projects that had to be done. And it was, like I said, if you don't have a good staff in a big place like that, you're going to be pulling your hair out. But it sounds like it was complicated, but once you got everything in place, it wasn't that difficult. Only when they wanted to do some sort of a project. And back then, we did all the projects in-house. We
Oh yeah.
very seldom did anything outside. And I had highway equipment. I could pave roads. I had a paver,
Nice.
I had a roller. I mean, it was crazy. And we did a little bit of that, but we didn't do a lot. I think I only used that paver once that I can remember. But it was, yeah, I can't remember the amount of mileage of service roads and roads that we had to maintain. It was, I'm going to say like 10 miles of service roads. We had
Wow.
service roads throughout the golf course. Uh, Around the outside, there was roads, and I had highway plows. I had dump trucks that could handle a big highway plow. We used to plow all the roads around the facility. We had two maintenance facilities. We had two clubhouses. We had a indoor tennis facility. We had an indoor racket ball facility. We had 15 or 16 hard true tennis courts. And then towards the end, they built some asphalt courts. They had paddleball courts. We had an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Wow.
We had the Wayhill area had a Wayhill guest house, which was, I think, 12 rooms in the guest house. Beautiful place. That was spectacular. It has a lot of history to it too. But yeah, it was. I mean, there was a lot there at Sauk, and scratch your head a lot of times. Of course, we had not only myself as the superintendent, but we had a building superintendent. Of course, the general manager was there. We had a clubhouse manager. You have all the managers in the clubhouse that you can think of, the beverage manager. There was a lot of staff around there. I think full time, I think if I remember right, there was like 120 full-time people there that maintain. And then of course, then I think we ballooned up to like 300 plus, I think during the summer, I think when with the whole facility, with all the people helping out in the clubhouse and the grounds and building maintenance and so forth. So it was a big staff. It was a big place. So yeah, it was a lot going on.
So there must be a couple funny or fun stories that went on there. Anything you can kind of share with us?
Funny stories.
Anything entertaining?
Well, yeah, I can tell a few stories. I'll tell one story during the 2000 Senior Open, and Brian knows about this one too, I think. I had an assistant at the time that played football for Joe Paterno at Penn State, and he was a big dude. His name's Neil McNutt. And I don't know, he had to be 6'5", 280. He looked like a
Ooh.
monster. And my prior experience with in the 92 US Senior Open, we had problems with the TV people. When they got up and left, they didn't care what they did. They rode their carts everywhere and anywhere to pick up their wires that they stretched all over the golf course for their TV communication and stuff. And they didn't care where they went. They just drove across keys. They did circles in our fairways. And so I told in 2000, I got wise and I told Neil, I said, Neil, now they're going to be at the end of the event, they're going to be coming out as soon as they can to start picking up their wire and winding it up. I says, you stay on them. And he says, I'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about it. And so now he didn't do anything with this, but he pulled a big axe out, and he had an axe in the back of his cart. And he says, he sort of put it up in the air and he goes, I'll take care of him with this. And so, but I never had a problem that year.
Funny
He
enough.
did everything I asked him to do. So that was a cool experience. That was sort of funny when he told me how he's going to handle it. But I did not have a problem with him at all that year.
He was an intimidating figure, and
he was a
he
big
didn't
dude.
he didn't need the axe in
No,
order to
probably
not.
intimidate anyone.
He didn't. He was one big dude.
Yeah.
But he was quite an athlete at Penn State. So very intimidating person. And let's try another one. After the 92 Senior Open, I'm sure they still do it, where caddies of the players and that they stay at people's houses, at members' houses, or maybe some of the crew. In our instance, one of the caddies for Gary Player stayed at one of my staff's house. And of course, the caddy promised that he was going to pay my employee or my staff person for the week that he was going to be there. And then he would also pay him to take him down to Philadelphia to go to the airport. Well, long story short, the caddy stiffed him. He didn't receive any pay from him whatsoever. So I went and told our tournament chairman, who was Mimi Griffin at the time, and told her, I said, hey, this caddy stiffed one of my staffers on the pay that he promised. And she goes, who is it? And I told her, I said, well, he caddied for Player. And so she gave me Gary Player's number. And I go, oh, I got to call Gary Player up. And so I did. Of course, he wasn't there, so I left a message. And about a week later, it was 6 o'clock. I'll never forget it. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. I just walked into my office and sat down. And phone rings. I pick up the phone, and I'm listening to this voice, and I'm going, man, I recognize this voice. Who is this guy? And here it was Gary Player, called me up, and he was going on and on about how bad this caddy was. He felt really bad that he stiffed him. He says, I'll make sure he gets his money. He says, if I'll say something to him. He says, I'll see him this week. He says, and I'll say something to him. He says, if he doesn't receive any money in a week, he says, you call me back and let me know. And he says, I'll handle it myself. But to go along with that conversation, we sat there. He must have talked to me for at least a half hour about the golf course design at Saucon. And it was a great conversation. I had a good time with it, but that was sort of a cool, funny experience at the same time. But he did get his money, by the way.
Nice.
Mike got his
Nice. There you go. There you go. What a phone call to get, though, eh?
Yeah, that was a little surprise. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. So, especially at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Well, he knew where you'd be,
Yeah,
right? He knew.
Yeah,
That's
he
right.
obviously had been around golf a little bit. He knew when we'd be in the office. So,
He's an early riser too. He's got to have.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to
Yeah, I'm
find
sure
time
he
to
does.
get those 1,000 push-ups a day in. So he's a
Yeah.
busy guy. So
True.
you've been. I mean, you've hosted 2 tournaments, and I know you've been to a lot of tournaments. How have you seen tournament preparation evolve over your 40 some years in the industry?
Well, it's totally changed. when we did the 92 Senior Open, I mean, we did the whole event with just people on our staff. Of course, we had 90 plus people. Right in that era is when I think they started, like Paul Latchall and those guys started bringing other assistants and superintendents into their events to help out with the prep work. Um, and we didn't do it at 92. Now, 2000 we did, we changed it, but that prep work, I mean, that's huge. I mean, the more people you have, obviously, the better. And experienced people like that. I mean, it means a lot to have that kind of experience around you. But I mean, but prepping for those events, as you know, you've been around it a little bit too.
Yeah, he's been around it a
I mean,
little bit.
yeah,
I might have more under my belt than you have in your 40
you
years,
probably do, Brian.
Yeah.
I think you
You
do.
might have the record in
But
the
you
industry,
know,
Brian.
that might be true, Adam. But it's been tent. I mean, everybody's coming in. You got all the tent people and the bleacher people and the concessions and trailers coming in, building, putting condos up, doing, uh, well, I don't know if they do it anymore, but I assume they have hospitality tents and stuff like that all over the place. And of course, you prep for all this stuff, and you have meetings all the time with the TV people and the tent people and the bleacher guys, and so you sort of know when everything's happening. But I mean, you technically in the USGA too. Obviously, you start out like 3 years prior to the event to start prepping for it. Um, so there's a lot that goes into it that you don't see behind the scenes, but that was the fun part of being getting involved with some of these big events, is just seeing everything being organized and having it all come together. And you go, wow, can't believe we did all that. At the end, it's like a breath of fresh air when you're done, but so exhilarating. It was fun. I really enjoyed that.
So I had this conversation with John Jeffries following Pinehurst, but I'm curious to get your take on it. Is more of the challenge in the lead in, or is it after the event and getting your golf course back to membership ready, I guess?
Interesting question.
Didn't think of that one before either.
No,
Okay.
no, I didn't think you'd go that deep,
We're all
but
about the
it's
hard-hitting questions
Oh
here,
yeah, get ready.
I enjoyed the prep work. I enjoyed the stuff prior to the event because you're so busy and you're organizing and you're trying to do the best things and you're to get ready for it. Um, it, it the the prep or the work after they left. Tell you the truth, in 92, we didn't have too much to do. Our course came back so quickly because I think we had the rains, if I remember right. It rained right after the event, and we had a little problem getting some of the bleachers out, if I remember right, and some of the tents. But it rained and everything recovered fairly quickly. We prepped for that too. We put seed down in the roughs and that in the walk areas and so forth along the ropes. And so all that stuff came back rather quickly. I think within a month, you couldn't tell we even had an event there, if I remember right, in 92. Now, 2000, I think, was a little different. I think we had a little bit more longer recovery on that one. But here again, the prep work was great. I reveled in that.
Which one was more challenging though?
Ooh.
Oh, well, the prep work probably was more challenging. I think the work going, prior to the event is much tougher just because there's so much going on, and you have to be on top of it. I mean, you're always getting phone calls and radios going off. You get, they need you here, they need you there. Um, but I enjoyed that. But the after work, either one was. I mean, there's just certain things you can do. You pray for good weather after the event, so you can all the vendors get out of there, and you can get things cleaned up again. But I mean, our space was so big, the prep work wasn't. I mean, the after tournament event stuff wasn't that difficult. It went rather quickly. You airify all the compacted areas, and you overseed some areas, and man, it didn't take us long to get things back to normal. So I thought that always went fairly well. What did the other gentleman say?
John was pretty overwhelmed with the after stuff. But again, totally different scenario. I mean, Pinehurst this year, I mean, they literally built a city within that golf
Yeah,
course. I mean, the merchandise tent is, I don't even know how many
yeah,
tens of thousands of square feet. I mean, it's, they brought in, sand and all sorts. I mean, they built
yeah,
paved roads and everything. So for
yeah,
him, I mean, that was nuts. So I mean, I know you guys used Grace Course and some other areas for some
right,
setup areas, but I mean, they took over, the first hole on two of his other golf courses was a volunteer area, a welcome area, and all that. So I mean,
right.
that
Yeah, I
build out
mean,
is insane.
yeah, as you know now,
Different
I mean, you've been
scenario.
to enough of them. It's a lot of these things are so different now.
Oh my gosh, they're
I mean,
huge.
we didn't have we had a small tent back by the one shop where we had meals every day. But we didn't have, when I went to the senior open there at Saucon in whatever it was a couple years ago. I mean, they had that massive tent right there
Yep.
over the top of the our nursery putting green area, and we didn't have that. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it, I think, nowadays than what it was when I was there. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And of course, you've experienced the U.S. Open too, and we only have the Senior Open. That's a little bit smaller
Yeah, but you
venue
guys
than
still, I mean, you guys set records. Was it 92 where you guys had like 45,000 people a day or
we
something? It
Oh my
was
goodness.
we
huge.
held, if I remember right, we held all the record at that time for the attendance. Yes, and I think we did for 2000 too. I believe. I don't know if it's any more, but
Waste
maybe
management
not.
probably ruined that.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
guess.
waste management. Man, I can't imagine having that. That'd be crazy. But no, I just the prep work I always enjoyed. I liked having the meetings with the rest of the people that were in charge of their different areas, and then trying to mold things together. The after stuff went. I just always remember it going so quickly and easily. It wasn't that difficult for us. Other than the TV guys that like to do circles
Yeah.
in my fairways and run across
But you had a
tees.
solution for that in 2000 though. So I
Yeah,
mean,
Yeah, I
yeah,
did.
you
exactly.
I
found Neil.
figured that one out. I figured that one out. Neil is quite the guy.
Well, Terry, there's certainly been a lot of change. We are talking about a lot of innovation right now in greenkeeping. There's been a lot of different things come up: GS3 ball, autonomous mowing, GPS spraying. There's been a lot of stuff. So if we go back and you were 30 years old today and you were going to start a fresh turf career, what would some of the things that you'd be really excited about?
Oh man, all of it. Everything you mentioned is good. I mean, the GPS for spraying. Oh, that would have been spectacular. The autonomous mowing. Yeah, I think that's going to have a big effect on the industry in the future, I think. He, I mean, like I said, we did everything by hand back then. I started working when they used to have the 12 gang pull behind mowers for fairways. So when we went to triplex mowing fairways, I thought, God, this is incredible. What are we going to do with triplex mowing fairways? Then they went to the fiveplex, which is a little bit nicer, but and then of course the airifying and stuff. I mean, they started airifying fairways when I first got to Saucon. And I can remember we had a bunch of walk behind airifiers. I can't remember how many we had. I think we had like 10 of them.
Oh my gosh.
And we used to line up behind each other and go down the fairways. And I had 3 courses that I had to do that
Oh
on.
my gosh.
So, I mean, it took us a while. Once we started, it took a while, but it's come so far. Um, and I just talked to a gentleman the other day, Brian. I think I sent you the note on this gentleman that's getting into the drone spraying.
Yep.
Yeah,
Uh,
that stuff's
and I'm
incredible.
going, yeah. I mean, he's doing his wild areas is that's what he's starting with now, I guess. But they're looking at maybe doing fairways and stuff with this drone. And
Yeah.
I mean that kind of stuff, especially when early in the season when things are wet or late in the season, and you can't get out there sometimes. And there was of course some of the courses I was at, we didn't have a lot of drainage, and so have something like that would have been spectacular. So, I mean, it's changing so fast. I can't even keep up with it anymore. I'm sort of glad I'm not in it. I'm sort of I'm not very techy, So,
Hey, you were able to get the Zoom going. I was impressed.
Yeah, better than some people we've had here.
well, I was lucky. I opened it up yesterday just to make sure I knew how to get to it,
Nice.
and then when you sent me that info on the email, I'm going, oh, I must just have to hit that email address, and that pops it up, and it did. So,
Nice.
but I
Nice.
couldn't. Then I figured out where the audio was. I had a little trouble with that, but
Piece of
other than
cake.
that,
What
yeah.
would- what do you think's been the biggest change? What do you think has been the, whether it's the best tool or whatever it may be, what do you think has been the biggest game changer for the industry?
Well, there's so many things that they've come out with now. I mean, moisture testing with the moisture meters, and of course now they have firmness meters, and we never had any of that. We did, we walk across the green and take a core out of the green and check the moisture and go, yeah, that looks good for the day. I think we'll be fine. And then, of course, then your observations. But now things are getting so high tech, and and then with the computer, you can put all your information in a computer. You can look at it every day and see if you're trending one way or the other. I mean, that kind of stuff is just unbelievable what you can do nowadays. And of course, equipment. I mean, it's getting high tech there too. I can't even tell you because I've been out of it now for a while. And of course, working at the small public course that we were at, I wasn't able to buy any new equipment, so I
Yeah.
stuck with the
Yeah.
old stuff. So I'm not even sure what some of the new stuff can do anymore.
Speaking of that, the transition to Cross Creek and not having the money to do it, you had an infamous presentation at the Penn State thing. I think Mark Kuhn's the one that keeps talking about it every time I see him. He calls it the pass the hat speech or
Yeah,
something, where he basically gave a presentation and everyone's like, oh, I can give you this. You just got to come pick it up. I can give you
yeah.
this. You just got to come pick it up.
I got an aerifier and let's see, I'm trying to think, a water jet and something else from Mark a couple years later after that. The deal was I had to go out and pick it up, so I did. We went out with a trailer and picked it up.
And you got a speeding
But
ticket
yeah,
on the way home, or a fine for not having a registered trailer or something, didn't
yeah, I did. Yeah, we
you?
did. We got pulled over. We talked the cop out of giving us a ticket. Uh, but yeah, that what I did there at that meeting, I'm surprised Mark even remembers that. But
Oh, every time I talk to him, he's always bringing it up.
I gave a picture of I think you remember that the big picture that we had of all our equipment at Saucon. Um, Adam, we did a history book at Saucon for this. I think it was the 75th anniversary, I think, and we did a picture, and we had to take all our equipment from both maintenance facilities, and we put it in a field, and then we had a helicopter take a picture of it, and then so I had that picture of all our equipment there, and then I had a picture of all the equipment that I had at Cross Creek where we were at in Decatur with Brian. And of course, I only had like 15 pieces, I think, in Decatur. And then I don't know how many pieces I had at Saucon. It took a whole field. It was an unbelievable picture, and I believe I showed that at that presentation. I said believe it or not, I went from that to just
There it
15
is.
pieces. Oh,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. That's a lot of
That's
equipment.
incredible. That's a full fleet of carts for a golf course. Like,
We had 100 carts for 3 golf courses. We had mostly walkers, but I think during the season we had 100 caddies there at the club, and they did most of the business. But there was a lot of people that rode too. But yeah, that was a great picture. I love that picture. Where'd you
Yeah.
get that, by the way? That's a
I've
nice
got the
one.
book. I've got the book.
Well, yeah, but that didn't come in the book. That wasn't a
Yeah, it
book
did.
shot, was it? Oh, was it?
Yeah, that's in the
Looked like
book.
that looked like a foldout that you had there.
No, it's like the center page. It's the centerfold
yes.
of the history book. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
go-to. So
Yeah.
along the lines of evolution of the industry, the one thing, I never thought about it. I always just thought we were, the poor kids of the help, but everyone keeps telling me, you know, hey, thank your dad because he was he was instrumental in helping to raise the professionalism of the industry and help getting salaries to where they need to be. How have you seen the professionalism and the compensation of this industry change over your 40 some years?
Big time. I mean, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you because you probably don't know. But when I went to Wilmington Country Club as an assistant, well, technically I was the superintendent of the South Course. I made a whopping $17,000, and that was, of course, I thought that was pretty good after making nothing for the 2 years
Yeah.
prior to that being in school. But at least I had something to work off of. And then when I went to Harbortown, I think I made 24,000 there. And of course, both places now, Adam, I had housing, so that was part
That's
of
helpful.
the deal.
Hmm.
So I had housing at both locations with that, but so that made up a little bit. But still, then I went to Saucon. I think the first year I was there, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but 45,000, I think, was my starting salary at Saucon. But I thought I was a millionaire then. But here again, we had housing. I had a car.
And
Of
it was
course, we had
1990, so
Right.
that
Yeah.
was no,
there's
that
been a
was
little
80.
inflation.
There was still a dollar
That
menu.
was
Yeah.
that was 1988 was when I took over at Saucon. But I mean, gosh, now I'm not even sure where, I'm sure they're up there 250 plus.
Wow.
A lot of these clubs, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now that a lot of them don't have housing, so I can understand some of the increases there. But yeah, I mean, some of these guys got to be making some big money now. It's even assistants are making good money now.
Yeah.
I don't. You probably know better than I do, Brian, on what some of these assistants are making now.
It's good.
It's got to
That's
be
why
huge.
Camden wants to do it now. He starts
Yeah,
hearing some of
well,
these dollar signs that are going around,
I'm
but
hoping he sticks with it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, there's definitely money in it now, and
Yeah.
it's that's good. I'm glad to hear that because we always used to sort of follow. We used to follow Paul Latshaw. If Paul Latshaw went from one private course to another, he always got a raise, and we'd always hear his numbers, and we go, oh, hey, we'd go to our greens chairman and say, hey, he's making a lot more than I am. And not that I expect to be like him, but can't we bump it just a little bit? So, and that's how everybody was doing it. I think everybody based it off of what Paul was doing. So Paul's probably the biggest influence on all the superintendents as far as money goes. I've always credited him for that.
Do you think some of it has to do with the recognition of the profession itself? Do you think maybe they're going up because of the demand? And obviously now with such a shortcoming of qualified people, do you see any trends that you think maybe has contributed to some of the increases?
Oh yeah, I think the PR that's being done now is so much better than it used to be. I mean, at least now you're hearing the superintendent's name on these on the events that are being televised now. So you always see their names up there, and of course, and then the Golf Channel does a lot of PR. They run advertising, so forth, for the Golf Course Superintendents Association. I've seen that on there before. So I think the name, and I think people now are understanding a little bit more of what we do. I mean, before we were just considered grass cutters. Now we've gone way beyond that. I mean, a lot of these people are so, I mean, they're so professional and they're good at it. I mean, a lot of the guys that you see every day are just so professional, and they do things that, I mean, they don't, not, some of them may work out on the course physically, but most of them are basically, they're at meetings all the time trying to keep things up to snuff with the members, and then working with their assistants out in the course and organizing. They're more project managers. A lot of them, I think, tend to be that way now, but I could be wrong. But I see that happening where they're more of a business person than the guy out there on the golf course working, changing cups and mowing. although that's always a therapy for everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to go back to Penn State. So you obviously went back at 30, which now we see is a lot more common. Back then, that would have been probably hard for you, right? There's two young kids and you're trying to get re-inspired and go back into this career. So could you talk a little bit about, redoing that all at 30 and then maybe any advice for people that are thinking about going back at an older age?
I wish I would have gone earlier in life, but and I had that opportunity, believe it or not, when I was when I graduated and I started working for Luke at the course there. He asked me if I wanted to go to school, and I said, yeah, I'd consider it. So, and of course, getting into Penn State for one thing was difficult back then. They used to have, I think there was like 300 plus applicants for the class of 30. I think that's all he accepted, and you had to have prior experience to get into it. I mean, there was a lot of things you had to pre-qualify with before you got accepted into the program. I don't know if it's still that way. I don't think it is, but it may be. But I haven't talked to John for a long time. But yeah, it was scary because I had been out of school for 12 years too. I mean, I went to little college in Fort Wayne. I went to the St. Francis for a while, and also went to Anderson University, which used to be Anderson College back then. But so I did a little college after school, but not much. And then to go back and to start all over again, basically, and start going in with all these kids, because there was three of us that were 30 and older. There was two of us, no, four of us. There was four of us that were the same age. We were all 30. One might have been 32. Tom might have been 32, but everybody else in our class of 30 were like 18 to 20, and I had to room with them. That was a difference. That was an experience, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. Would I recommend it to anybody? Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you have that opportunity, I mean, my wife was pretty good to me. I mean, to allow me to do that, to go back and go back to school, and she stayed behind and took care of the kids because I'm sure. I mean, gosh, Brian, you were what? You were
I was
five
four.
and six, four and six then, 4 and 6. And I know my sister babysat for Brian, I'm sure. So that helped a little bit. But nowadays, I think it'd be very difficult to do that because of money and so forth, the way it is. But would I recommend a 4-year program? If I would have, I would probably try the 4-year program first before I went 2-year, because that seems to be what everybody wants. But I tell you what, the 2-year was pretty darn good. They didn't miss much. It was intense, especially for me because I was trying to get back into the studying routine, and that took a little while to get back into. But the 2-year program was, I mean, it was all pretty specific, uh, and everything related. And of course, and I was out of the golf business actually for 6 years too, before I went back to Penn State. Thank God Dr. Deutsch let me in. But it was so things had changed in the 6 years that I had left originally to go back into schools, because I can remember talking to some of these guys about what they were doing at their courses, and I'm going, gosh, I've never done that before. How'd you do it? What are you doing? So I was learning as far as things on the golf course of what they were doing compared to what I had done 6 years prior to that. And of course, here again, I was at a little public golf course, and these guys, a lot of the guys were at big places. I mean, a lot of big private clubs, and they did a lot more and had a lot more money than we ever did. But so it was a big change, but I would definitely recommend at least a 2-year program for somebody in a situation like I was in. If you have a good wife and they'd let you go back, she's looking at me right now. So,
So along those
so
lines of the support system, I mean, not just your situation, going back to school, but then just throughout your career, how important is that quality support system for your success?
you lived it with me, so
Oh,
it's.
of
I mean,
course.
mom was spectacular. I mean, she was very giving, and she understood that there was going to be some hours, that there's times I couldn't be home. I'd have to be away. And that happened a lot. I mean, I can remember working at Harbor Town, and the Harbor Town's irrigation system did not work very well. And so I had to get up about every hour and a half and change heads. And that was all through the night. And I did that all through the summer that year. And so she had to take care of you guys, you and your brother, and I didn't have time for it. And of course, you guys played sports. Once I got the Saucon, that changed a little bit because I had help behind me there. But prior to that, it was your mom did a lot for us. So she was a yeoman, and I was happy to have her. I don't
And
think
you paid it back for it too, because then she went on and got her master's and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
And
she
so
got
you,
she got her master's. Yeah, she got her master's after she got her 4-year degree. Of course, we got married, and shortly after we got married, she got her regular degree, her elementary education degree, and then she went on and got her master's, and then she got her administrative degree too on top of that. And yeah, that took a while to get us there, but yeah, so we gave a little bit both ways, I think, and it worked out for us. But I don't know. I think you have to have pretty interesting marriage to make it work like that. Mom was pretty good.
she's got it. She's got some thick skin. She can put up with a lot, having put up with
She just asked
especially you.
if we were recording this so she
Oh,
could
yeah.
have it
Oh,
back
nice.
later.
Yeah, we'll send it to
Oh,
her. Don't
yeah,
worry.
it's recording. Yeah, it's being recorded. 100%.
Terry, you talked a little bit about therapy on the course, and sometimes maybe superintendents don't get to do that kind of stuff. So for you, what was your favorite task on the course?
You're going to laugh at this. Believe it or not, I like raking bunkers.
Hey, that's your therapy, right?
Yeah, it was, and I enjoyed that. I mean, just a few years ago, I would go in on the weekends and rake the bunker here at the course up here by our lake cottage, just because I like doing it. Nobody else did, but I didn't mind it. I like changing cups, but later in my age, it got tougher for me to cut the cup, just because of my shoulders were all messed up, and so I couldn't. I like doing that too, but I couldn't do it physically as well as I like to. But the raking bunkers, that was my therapy. I don't know I'm sure you're going to hear everything from everybody on that if you ask superintendents that question, but that was mine. I really liked that.
Yeah,
Anytime.
we don't ask the question often, but we definitely should because it would be different for everybody, right?
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
be. It would be. Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. It looks good when you get
Oh
done.
yeah, instant
When you get
satisfaction.
done with them.
What was your maybe one key or the foundational piece for you that if you knew you did this right, our golf course was going to be in good shape? Was it like a cultural practice, a spray practice, soils? Is there anything that was just your base fundamental that you knew if you got it done, you're good shape?
Boy, that's a tough question because there's a lot of things that come into play on that. I guess being able to manage your water would be the big issue. I mean, if you could manage your water, usually your course was in pretty good shape. Whether you want it firm or I mean, real green. I mean, either way, the water is one of the main issues there. But I would have to say it'd have to be the watering part, your water management skills. If you could get that down right, usually the course was in pretty good shape. I mean, one thing leads to another. I mean, the wetter you are, the more disease pressure probably you're going to have, and weather related, heat and so forth. So if you're dry going into a heat period, then usually it's easier to maintain, not as much disease. So water management would be mine.
I think that's a great answer. I wasn't expecting that, but I really do think that's a great answer because it's something you can try and control. I mean, Mother Nature's your biggest
Yeah.
opponent out there, but yeah.
Yeah, as Dr. Deutsch used to say, drainage makes a difference, and so drainage and water go together. So
hmm
You have both of those, then usually a lot of your problems are resolved. Not all of them, but a lot of them are.
So we had Darren on here a couple weeks ago, and he had some good Dr. Deutsch stories. Do you got any good Dr. Deutsch stories?
Oh gosh. I listened to Darren, and of course, everybody has that same comment about Dr. Deutsch as the first day he comes in there and he does his thing on the board, and of course, back then you were able to smoke in the classrooms, and he'd take that cigarette and he'd roll that cigarette in his mouth and take a puff on it, and he'd inhale it, and everybody's waiting for him to exhale, exhale, come on, exhale, and he never would. And you go, "Where?" And so, um, you know, he was always he had a real dry sense of humor. And I'm trying to remember, there was a time I went into him and asked him a question. I'm trying to remember what it was. And I was pretty green. That was my freshman year too. When I went in there to talk to him, I can't remember what it was, but he came back with a real sarcastic remark. And something, I think I went in there and asked him something about one of the books and what we were reading and so forth. And he sort of looked at me and he just said, well, he goes, Terry, that's why you're here. He says, you're here to read. So go read it.
Nice, nice.
So I never asked him another question after that.
What did you get in the etiquette class? I think Darren said that was the only thing that kept him away from straight A's.
Well, as you know, my roommate at that time was a straight A student. Bill was he was a good guy, but he got a B plus in that class, which took him off straight A's. And I got a B in the class. I was happy. Matter of fact, I think you and Brian or you and Pat came to a class, if I remember right.
Yeah, I remember sitting in the back. Yep.
But she was a stickler, and everybody. I don't think I went to her final. Something happened, and I had to come home, and I got out of her final, your final you had to go to her house and
Wow.
eat with her. Yeah, and I think I had to come home for some reason, and so I got out of it. I went to her and told her what was going on, and she goes, "Yeah, go ahead and go home." So I was happy with a B because I didn't expect to get a B out of missing the final with her. So I must have did all right during class, but there was a few utensils I still can't figure out what they were.
The fun things you learn in school.
Yeah, I mean, and I tell you what, it came in handy.
No,
Doc was right. It does come in handy. So yeah, Darren knows it well too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a cool guest to have on. We could probably have Darren on every week. He's full of stories and insights.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I learned a couple of things I didn't know about him. I mean, I knew he had worked with Jeff Fietmeyer, and Jeff and I are real good friends. But I didn't know Dave Gardner, who was another classmate of mine that worked with them. So I learned something new listening to that podcast.
That's awesome. So speaking of learning, you mentioned how you learned from some of the other students when you're in school and obviously from the professors, but how, as you continue to advance in your career, how important is it to maintain those relationships with your peers, with your professors? How critical are those relationships in order to, again, help you succeed?
As you know, I mean, your connections are everything. When I was working, I mean, I tried to stay as connected as I could. You're much more connected now than I ever was. But I knew back then, especially when I was at Saucon, I could stay in touch with a lot of good people. But yeah, I mean, anytime you have a question or you hear somebody's doing some sort of a project, how do they do the project? You can always reach out to those people, which was fun because that's where you learn. I mean, the book tells you one thing, but your experience tells you something totally different usually. And your experiences, you can always learn from those sometimes more so than you can a book. So connections are everything. And I still stay a little bit connected. As you know, I went to the RNS tournament here the other day and got to see a lot of the supers that are around this area and some of the Purdue profs were there. Aaron was there, talked to him a little bit. And so it was, it's fun to stay connected and stay somewhat in the business a little bit. I'm not as good as I used to be since I've been out for a couple of years, but it's still nice to be able to touch base with some of these guys and see what they're up to and see what the new things are out in the market now. And so there's always something to learn in the business. I mean, when you think you know it all, you don't. So, and I don't think you ever think you know it all. This business isn't that way. So there's always something coming up that changes things.
Your kids know it all, though.
Yes.
Yeah, you always knew it all, Brian. Your mom always says that too.
Yeah.
About
yeah.
you.
Oh, great. Nice.
Well, it's not a huge industry, right? So you got to stay connected. You got to keep evolving and learning. And we talk to people like yourself all the time, Terry, about leadership and about those qualities to be a professional and manage a crew, 60-hole golf course crew. Even that's even bigger. So just to talk to some of the younger people in the industry, some of the people that are getting their first superintendent's job. Can you talk to them for a few minutes just about leadership and what it means to kind of be the person in charge?
Boy, it's funny. I think one of your podcasts, I can't remember which podcast I was listening to, but turf is only a small part of your business. Dealing with people is huge. That's like 85% of your business is dealing with people. And so you really have to get into that a little bit. And if you're not good at it, it's something you got to practice, I think, a little bit. And how you do that, you just gotta pour yourself into it, force yourself to get involved with people, maybe Rotary clubs, or get involved with your association and so forth, and start dealing with people that way. It's just so important. And turf's just a minor percentage of what you're going to deal with. And personnel is absolutely huge. It's huge. I mean, in dealing with your members and your board and so forth, it's so important. And it's like I say, it's there's no easy way to do it either. I mean, I've seen some superintendents struggle because they're just not real. They're not outgoing, and you have to be somewhat outgoing, not necessarily big time, but you have to know, when to speak up and when not to, and you got to listen. That's a big thing, is being a good listener. I may not have been the best, but at that, but I always thought I was pretty good at personnel. I had some issues at times when I was learning, but the older you get, the wiser you get. So
You were one of the first guys that I heard go through, and I was looking off camera here because I'm looking for the book, but you went through that program, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I can't remember the author of that, but you went through that training program for leadership communication a while back.
it's a business institute of some sort.
Yeah.
It's a company that deals with that. I did take that.
Yeah.
I
I know.
It's escaping me now. I have a book out here somewhere on it too, and I still have it. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Dale Carnegie.
Yes, thank
Dale
you.
Carnegie training. Yes.
Yes, I went through that. Yes.
Okay. Did you pick some stuff up from that? Was that beneficial for
Yeah,
you?
that helped me a little. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they try to throw a bunch of stuff down your throat all at once, and you can retain some of it. But I probably should have taken more classes of that, which probably would have been a big help. But yeah, definitely took that class. That'd be a big help. And like I say, just getting involved with doing talks and so forth too. Me. I'm not a real big public speaker. I get a little nervous when I do that,
But you can get in front of 50 people in karaoke like it's no big deal.
yeah, but it took me a while to do that, Brian.
Yeah.
I started with tequila because I was so scared.
Not the shot, the song. The song.
Yeah, the song
Yes,
Tequila.
Yes, nothing to it.
It was on a dare, Adam.
Was
It
it?
on a
Yeah.
dare. Yeah,
That's how it
a funny
happens.
story.
It's usually how those things start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a funny story. Our neighbor over here, we both had the desire to sing karaoke, but we were both scared to. And so she dared me to sing, and I dared her to sing. And she goes, "Well, I'm not going to sing until you sing." And I go, "I have to listen to some songs before I can even do that." I said, "I'll have to pick one out." I said, "When I do, I'll let you know." And so we were traveling home from our cottage back to the house in Decatur, and I heard this song. And I go, "Man," I looked at Terry, my wife, and I said, "I think I could sing that song. That sounds pretty easy." And so that weekend we came back up, and I told my neighbor, I said, "I'm ready to sing karaoke." And I go, "Do you have your song?" She goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." I said, "We're going to sing tonight." So she says, "All right." So we went over to the restaurant here, and she looks at me, she goes, "You're going to sing first." And I go, "No, I'm not." I says, "You're going to sing first." She goes, "No, if I do go first, you won't sing." I go, "Yeah, I will." I said, "I'll get up and sing." She goes, "All right." So she got up, she sang her song. And so then they got me up next. And soon as the music started, it was hilarious. She recognized the song. And do you know Tequila, the song Tequila?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they only say it three times
Yeah, it's true.
in the song. Well, soon as the music started playing, I looked over at her, and she's giving me the double finger.
That's
So
so fucking good.
it was, I
Oh
never laughed
my
so hard in my
God,
life.
that's
That was
so
great.
funny.
So that started my karaoke career.
That's so you just kind of stood there the whole time. Tequila.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
just sort of snapped my fingers and clapped
Just a
and
showman.
Yeah. I think I'd be more terrified just standing up there. Yeah, that's great.
I had I had to make sure I watched the wording though, because I didn't want to miss the word
That's right.
tequila.
No, that's true. Yeah, you got to time that perfectly.
You mess that one up, you're done. Yeah, that's great.
That's how it got started. So
All right.
yeah.
So I got to know your favorite golf course family memory. So favorite memory of time on the golf course with the family. We've had a lot of them.
If we have, I was just trying to think of. I liked it when we were doing our family tournaments.
I did too.
Uh,
Those are great. I've
that
got the
was
trophy
fun.
still somewhere, I think. Oh,
I know
actually, it
you
might be
do.
at
I
the
was just
cottage. Actually, might be
He was
at
ready
your
to throw
house.
that one in there.
it
I was
might
gonna
be.
let him bring it up.
Yeah.
That was fun. I mean, we played some pretty nice golf courses, and I think we played Bay Hill, Lake Nona. We played down at where'd Pat get his engagement? That was
Down
was
in
that Amelia
Jacksonville.
Island?
That was Amelia
That was
Island, yeah.
Amelia Island. Played there. We played in Vegas too, didn't we? Didn't we play?
Yeah, we played Desert Pines. Yep.
Yeah,
Can't
that's
remember what
right.
else. Yeah. Yeah, we played a
Yeah.
couple out there.
So, but those are I mean, that was so much fun. That was so much fun. Even though you won every year but one. And I feel bad about that. But
Yeah, it's
but
okay.
you were starting to play pretty good back then, so I can't say that was bad for me. It was good that you were playing. I think that was fun. And of course, you going down the sled at
Oh
in
God.
Wilmington. That was it's funny now. It wasn't so funny at the time.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can tell that.
I'm
You can
glad
tell
you
that.
enjoyed it.
You can tell Adam that story. Huh?
No, no, that's go for it. Go for it. We'll hopefully no children's services people are listening to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this might be considered child abuse. I'm not quite sure. When we lived at Wilmington Country Club, there was a nice hill right behind our house where we were staying, and of course, there was a lot of people that lived on site at Wilmington, and we all used to get together. We used to play ping pong and all that kind of stuff, and but the one year, the one winter we were there, it snowed real hard that one winter. And so a bunch of us went out and we built this nice long sled, I guess, sled run. And we put water on it. We iced it all down, and it had a jump on it at the end. It was great, man. I mean, you could really get going on it. And of course, Brian wanted to go down it, and we put him on it, and he went down. I mean, of course, he was, gosh, how old? You would have been 6 at that
Six.
time.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Yeah, 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 one or the other. And he was pretty light, and you were on one of those little saucers, and he hit that jump, and oh my gosh, he went up in the air, landed on his face, and it just skinned up his face so bad. I
Oh
felt so
man.
bad at the time.
Yeah, I'm glad to
Uh,
hear that's one of your favorite memories of
Yeah.
your son
well,
snipping
it
his
was
face
is a
off.
memory I can't forget.
Never forget that one.
I do because I blacked out as soon as I hit the ice. So
Oh
Yeah,
jeez. How fast were you going,
it
you
was
think?
man,
it was like
he
straight
was
out of
fine.
Christmas Vacation. I
Oh yeah.
mean, you saw the streak.
That's true. That is true. That's sort of what it reminds me of too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Wow.
flying. I don't know how fast he was going, but he was flying. But yeah, he probably still has a scar from it. That's probably
That's
why
why I
he's
have
wearing
the
the.
beard. Yeah,
Yeah, I
you don't
know.
see the
I know.
scars. Yeah, nice, nice. That's when
That
we.
was
That's
one.
when. That's when Pat and I slept in the closet. I think too. And didn't that first apartment in
Well, that
Wilmington we slept in the apartment or in the
yeah,
closet
well,
there? Yeah.
the first house that we had there on site wasn't quite a closet, but it was pretty close. It was probably a room 8 by 8 or
Yeah.
something, and all we had was that bunk bed in there.
Yeah.
That was a small one. Dave tried to get us out of there as soon as he could, and he did. I mean, he put us over in that bigger apartment later, but that first one was pretty small.
Yeah.
Scared me because there was no exit for you guys. So if we ever had a fire, there was no getting you guys out unless we tear a wall out. So that's a good memory, huh,
Yeah,
Adam?
lots of good memories. Absolutely. You guys have made it a lot.
Yeah, I
So
got lots of stories, Adam. It's just they're tough to come out every once in a
Yeah.
while, but
Well, every time you think of one, write it down, and after you get to about 10 or so, we'll have you back on. You can tell them all.
yeah.
you'll get bored of these. But we've got some good
No,
ones.
I think you've done a great job today. I think there's lots of stuff in this conversation people are really going to love, and even just it being a family episode and getting to learn more about Brian and kind of having a little bit more of an inside look in the show. It's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It was fun. We enjoyed it. It was like I said, I don't think I'd change anything.
Hmm.
It's
I was just going to ask if you could change one thing about your career, what would it be?
I don't think I'd change anything. I don't know if we would have bought Cross Creek early in life, it would have been a totally different story. So the way it turned out, you know me, I like playing golf, and obviously I wasn't good enough to go be on the tour or anything, but at least I had the ability to experience the tour by doing it on the other side. So would that have ever happened if we would have got Decatur? No, I don't think so. When I was 24, I don't think so. So no, I don't think I'd change anything. I think I'd keep things the way they are.
Sounds like things worked out for the best.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe you got scarred up a little bit, but you'll get over it.
Sorry, that's what therapy's for.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Terry, we can't thank you enough for coming on here today. This has been so cool, and we'll definitely have to bring you back on eventually again.
I love it. So it's great. Keep it up. Keep up the good work.
We will.
So,
Absolutely.
But you did great, Dad. So appreciate you
well,
coming
thank
on
you.
and appreciate you everything you've done for me. I've learned from you and Mom the value of hard work and dreaming. So, you
Yeah.
guys both you inspired Pat and I. Pat's obviously followed his own path and kind of doing my own thing too. And that's a direct result of watching you and Mom both follow your passions and being successful with it. So thank you for all the lessons.
We're glad we had some influence on you.
Just the good ones. You had the good influence on just, the key things of me. The other stuff, I don't know who gets credit for that, but
Well, Mom gets all the credit. She
Yeah.
raised.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. So, and Brian, I'm glad you made it home safe. So,
Yep,
uh,
just home safe for 3 days and then back on the road.
yeah, you're going to Philly next, right?
Philly on Sunday.
Right. Well, good luck.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, we'll let
All
you
right.
go.
All right. Thanks again, Dad. Love you. Love
Yeah,
you,
thank
Mom.
you so
Love
much.
you guys. Yeah. You guys take care. Thanks, Adam.
Oh, thank you, Terry. This was fantastic. We'll chat soon, okay?
All right.
All right. We'll see
All
ya.
right. Bye-bye now.
Bye. No, he did great.
Yeah,
He did great.
no,
Like I said, he doesn't like doing that. When I was running the Ohio Turfgrass Foundation, I'd come and I'd ask him to speak a few times because he'd always come over. And yeah, I mean, it was like pulling teeth trying to get him up there and speak in front of people. He gets so nervous. But like I said, like my parents growing up, we didn't do it a ton. I mean, we had great experiences, don't get me wrong, but my parents were not like the socialites or anything like that. They rarely went to parties, anything. Now it's like they go to the bar every Friday night. He's singing karaoke. He goes to the bar on Saturday night, a different bar to go sing karaoke. And it's just like they've got they've got a social life now that I never would have expected growing up. It's so fun to watch.
Yeah, well, you're obviously a social guy yourself, so there's got to be something there. Maybe it was just kind of closed off for so long working at the golf course.
Yeah, mom's very social. Mom's an educator. She's used to dealing with big groups of people and all that kind of stuff. So certainly some of that comes from her for sure. Cool. All right, man.
We'll keep in
Great
touch.
job.
We'll figure it out.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, buddy. Have a good one.
Take care.
Huge shout out to Toro, as always, for everything you guys do for us. Until next week, everybody, keep those reels sharp.